The Sahara Desert is one of the harshest environments on our planet today. For millions of kilometers, vast plains of sand dominate a region the size of the United States of America. However, while currently a desolate sea of sand, this massive desert used to be far different than we see it today. In fact, almost 100 million years ago, the Great Dunes of the Sahara were dominated by dinosaurs. But what really astonishes about this ancient ecosystem is the vast amount of predatory animals that would call this region their home. Abelisaurs like Rugops and megalosaurs like the legendary Spinosaurus would stalk these ancient lands for prey. But even these giants were not king here, for another reigned supreme over all of them, with teeth that could easily slice through flesh, and a size to rival the king of the dinosaurs itself. This massive predator was one of the largest theropods to ever exist. But what was this Saharan super predator? How did it come to reign supreme in a land filled with competition? This is the story of Carcharodontosaurus, the North African nightmare. The story of this magnificent predator began over a century ago when two teeth were unearthed in 1924 found within the wall cuts of different man-made waterway systems called Fogaras near the town of Timimoun of what was once French Algeria. The formation these teeth were founded would later be described as the almost nationwide continental intercalary formation in 1931. The teeth were later taken to Timimoun and given to its governor, Captain Brute. Brute gave the teeth to geologist Charles de Perret, who he and his colleague Justin would publish and assign the teeth to a brand new species of theropod dinosaur named Megalosaurus saharicus in July 1st, 1925. The specific name given is a Latinized spelling of the massive desert the country resides in, that being the Sahara Desert. By this time, Megalosaurus, a taxon from Jurassic England, was a wastebasket taxon for many large theropods not just from the Jurassic, but also the Cretaceous, and Saharicus was no exception, being thrown into the same genus with no proper diagnosis made. 2 years later, the species was reassigned to Dryptosaurus, another wastebasket taxon at the time, but this publication was heavily disagreed upon and was considered unjustified. A decade prior to the teeth being discovered, Austro-Hungarian paleontologist Richard Markgraf, who was a close friend of the paleontologist Ernst Stromer, unearthed the remains of a large theropod in early April of 1914 in Egypt's Bahariya Formation, which wouldn't be defined until 1962. Due to the political tension between Egypt, which was under British rule, and the German Empire, it took years for the specimen found in Egypt to make its way to Munich. The specimen was catalogued as SNSB-BSPG 1922-X46 or IPHG 1922 and consists of both the left and right nasals, most of the maxilla, several teeth, and an incomplete brain case and other postcranial fragments, the most complete of which being two complete fibula and an incomplete left tibia. After realizing the Algerian teeth and the teeth from the Egyptian specimen were similar to one another, Stromer assigned Megalosaurus saharicus to a new genus and published this on May 9, 1931. The new taxon was named Carcharodontosaurus, leaving the specific name the same. While it is often believed that the name Carcharodontosaurus means shark-toothed lizard or reptile, this is actually a bit of a misunderstanding, as the name of the dinosaur derives from the generic name of the great white shark, Carcharodon, which itself derives from the Greek words karkaros, meaning jagged or sharp, and odontos, meaning tooth or teeth. Given that the name is quite similar to that of the most famous shark alive today, and that the words shark and shark sound quite similar, it is actually rather easy to see how it could be misattributed as the shark-toothed lizard rather than the accurate name, that being the sharp-toothed lizard or reptile. Interestingly, while the Egyptian specimen was the only one known from actual material outside of just teeth at the time, it's ironically the teeth from Algeria that were actually assigned to the holotype and left ectotype in Stromer's original publication. Sadly, these teeth have since been mysteriously lost. There is, however, a chance that they're still possibly kept in a collection in either Algeria or in Paris or Lyon in France. Though, as if the disappearance of both the holotype and lectotype wasn't bad enough, the Egyptian specimen would go on to meet an even more tragic fate. On the night of April 24th to the 25th, 1944, during World War II, everything that both Stromer and Markgraf had discovered and described from the Bahariya Formation would be destroyed. The fossils were housed at the Paleontological Museum in Munich, and unfortunately, due to a Nazi party base being close to the museum, the bones were caught in the crossfire of a bombing raid performed by the British Royal Air Force. As a result, everything that was on display was destroyed, including the only fossil material of Spinosaurus, Egyptosaurus, and what was then the most complete specimen of Carcharodontosaurus ever found. However, all wasn't lost for the Egyptian specimen, as illustrations, pictures, and even an endocast of the specimen survived the war, being the only evidence left of this specimen's existence. All wasn't lost for Carcharodontosaurus as a taxon either. Paleontologists Albert de Laparent and Philippe Tequet would both report teeth, cranial, and postcranial elements between 1951 to 1976 respectively. Most of this material was found in the aforementioned continental intercalary formation, which has since been found to have a geographic range that stretched to Tunisia, also stretching into the known range of Carcharodontosaurus at the time. Material has also been found in Niger's Elraz and Ekar formations. There's a chance that some of this material, especially of what was found in the Elraz, could possibly belong to another Carcharodontosaurid, considering the older geologic age. Reports of more fragmented material or teeth have also been discovered in Spain, Brazil, Zimbabwe, and Sudan. However, the material found in these regions have since been shown to not have the same diagnostics as Carcharodontosaurus, and were therefore placed as either indeterminate Carcharodontosaurids or outright considered to be indeterminate theropods. After decades of bone fragments, teeth, and partially complete material, the best post-war discovery for this taxon wouldn't take place until 1995. Renowned American paleontologist Paul Sereno, who specializes in the study of North African dinosaurs, began an expedition to the Kem beds. A year after the expedition, Sereno would publish a paper describing material found during the expedition. Aside from the description of a brand new theropod at the time, that being Deltadromeus, this paper described the most complete cranium of a Carcharodontosaurus ever found, only missing a portion of the premaxilla and the very back of the skull. If that's not all, Sereno and paleontologist Steve Brusati described a brand new species of Carcharodontosaurus in 2007, described by a maxilla catalogued as MNN-IGU2, which was discovered in the region of Iguidi in Niger's Ekar Formation. It was aptly given the name Carcharodontosaurus iguidensis. After the description of C. iguidensis, more material from Ekbar was described to the new species, such as several teeth, a brain case, and cervical vertebrae, just to name a few. However, paleontologists Alfio Alessandro Chiarenza and Andrea Cao in 2016 discovered that some of the material might actually belong to an indeterminate species of Spinosaurus and a non-Carcharodontosaurian instead. This has led to the newest species only being known from the holotype. Andrea Cao is also the same paleontologist that described Soraniops in 2012, a close relative to Carcharodontosaurus. Due to its fragmentary nature though, later research suggests that it could either be synonymous with Carcharodontosaurus or a dubious animal altogether. Other papers that include phylogeny have concluded that C. iguidensis might be a different genus altogether. While it is still considered valid, the chances of it staying as a second species of Carcharodontosaurus are rather low. If that's not all, after the Kem specimen for Carcharodontosaurus saharicus was assigned to the neotype, paleontologists began to look at the long-gone Egyptian specimen once again. In less than 20 years, several paleontologists have discovered that from the get-go, it was never a Carcharodontosaurus specimen to begin with. Thanks to the illustrations, photographs, and endocasts that survived World War II, IPHG1922 was assigned as the holotype for a brand new genus of Carcharodontosaurid due to the recognized differences in the teeth, skull shape, and its overall size. In January 2025, paleontologists Maximilian Kellerman, Elena Coista, and Oliver W.M. Rauha named the new taxon found Tamaryraptor markgraffi, named after the same man who discovered its remains over 100 years ago. Overall, Carcharodontosaurus has an incredibly rich history. Even after 100 years, Stromer and Markgraf's findings are still making a major impact on paleontology in North Africa. This shows that not even something as devastating as a world war can prevent science from pushing forward, and extinct creatures like Carcharodontosaurus are one great example of this. As far as large theropods go, Carcharodontosaurus has several anatomical traits that set it apart from other large predators in its size range. Unlike Tyrannosaurus, with its wide skull and advanced binocular vision, Carcharodontosaurus and its South American relative Giganotosaurus have laterally slender skulls with binocular vision that's less advanced. In fact, the front and side views of the skull have an almost triangular shape. Like most Carcharodontosaurids, Carcharodontosaurus itself was also robust in build with a short neck, short arms, and an elongated tail. While their jaws weren't as powerful as those in Tyrannosaurids, Carcharodontosaurus and its kin could still deliver a nasty bite thanks to their serrated teeth. The anterior and posterior bite force of Carcharodontosaurus has been estimated to be 11 to 25,000 newtons, or 1.15 to 2.5 tons. This would easily have been enough for the predator to puncture and tear deep into the flesh of its prey. However, the most prominent difference between Carcharodontosaurus and its close relatives is its skull shape. The neotype shows that the lacrimal crests were not as tall or prominent as those of other members like Giganotosaurus and Acrocanthosaurus, nor did it have a downward-facing bite like the latter. The one thing that sets both C. saharicus and C. iguodensis apart is that C. iguodensis contains traits in its anorbital fenestra and its maxilla that C. saharicus lacks. Size was also another trait that set them apart. Carcharodontosaurus was not only one of the largest carnosaurs to have ever walked on planet Earth, but it was particularly one of the largest predators residing in the River of Giants. Based on the neotype specimen uncovered, C. saharicus is estimated to have reached a maximum length of around 12 to 12.5 meters, or 39 to 41 feet, and weighed up to 5 to 7 metric tons, or 11,023 to 15,432 pounds, and reaching a height of 3.5 to 4 meters, or 11.5 to 13.2 feet tall. These size estimates make Carcharodontosaurus saharicus tower over almost every other predatory dinosaur during its time, outside of both Giganotosaurus and its main source of competition, Spinosaurus. However, the potential secondary species, C. iguodensis, was smaller by comparison, estimated to be 10 meters or 33 feet in length, and would have weighed 4 metric tons or 8,818 pounds, making the highly controversial species dwarfed by C. saharicus. By comparison, it was also around the same size range as predators like the Spinosaurid ichthyovenator and its relative Acrocanthosaurus. As for what kind of animal Carcharodontosaurus truly was, in order to understand this massive predator, we will have to take a look into its closest family members. Carcharodontosaurus resides in a large clade of theropod dinosaurs known as Carnosauria. This group includes their closest relatives within Allosauroidea and potentially the very distant Megalosauroids. Allosauroidea is split into 3 families: the family Allosauridae, which contains Allosaurus and its closest relatives, the family Metriacanthosauridae, and the aptly named Carcharodontosauridae. Interestingly, the paper that described the newly named Tamaryraptor supports a new close relationship between Metriacanthosaurids and Carcharodontosaurids, potentially creating a brand new clade known as Carcharodontosauriforms. Though only time will tell how long this new clade will last, considering that the former is far older than any other Allosauroid family. Carnosaurs as a group first appeared during the Toarcian stage at the end of the early Jurassic, starting with the Allosauroid asphaltovenator, which shows derived traits of both Allosauroids and Megalosauroids. This animal's shared traits of both groups is what allowed for the latter's placement into Carnosauria. Based on the fossil record, the larger subgroup that Carcharodontosauridae belongs to, that being Carcharodontosauria, first evolved in the Camarigian stage of the late Jurassic. By this time, basal and derived genera residing within and outside of Carcharodontosauridae had seemed to have already been thriving, such as the basal Lucivenator and the derived but also fragmentary Veteropristosaurus. The family became far more diverse once the Cretaceous period began. where they gradually diversified and became even more widespread as the early Cretaceous epoch persisted. Genera like Lahasvenator, Acrocanthosaurus, Concavenator, and Xiaoqilong were some of the first true members to inhabit Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Additionally, a new publication in 2025 also described the first ever material found in Australia, showing that these sharp-toothed predators inhabited the lands down under as well. Carcharodontosaurus itself resides within the aptly named subfamily Carcharodontosaurinae, which contains some of the largest members of the entire Carnosaur family. The mighty Giganotosaurus, as well as Carcharodontosaurus itself, were the largest of the subfamily, outweighing all other close relatives. Alongside these two giants, the subfamily also includes genera such as Mapusaurus, Meraxes, and Tyranotitan. With the discovery of Tamaryraptor, it shows paleontologists that all of the formations from Cenomania in North Africa don't always contain the same animals, and further spreads the diversity of Carnosauria within that region. As mentioned before, the same paper that described Tamaryraptor also states that Carcharodontosaurus iguadensis could possibly be separate from the genus due to the holotype of this species being diagnosed as a member outside of Carcharodontosaurinae, supporting the possibility of the taxon being a new genus. Overall, the family of Carcharodontosaurus, even after almost a century since its description, is still changing, giving us a better understanding of this group, what they are closely related to, and how much more there is left to learn about so many other members of this incredible family of dinosaurs. Carcharodontosaurus had a relatively wide geographic range, stretching across northwest Africa during the Cenomanian stage of the late Cretaceous. While its fossil record is well documented in Morocco's Kem beds, Algeria's continental intercalare formation, Tunisia's Ain el Ghoutar formation, and Niger's Ekbar formation, there are potential remains from Egypt's Bahariya and Quissier formations, and, oddly enough, Brazil's Alcantara formation. However, the material from Bahariya and Alcantara is either referred to the genus or assigned to an unnamed species. As mentioned before in History and Discovery, the most important material known from the Bahariya formation was reassigned to a new genus this past January, that being Tamaryraptor. The material known from Quissier also dates to the extremely younger Maastrichtian stage, showing that the material from this formation is one of many examples of fossils being washed down into older rock layers during fossilization. There are also potential remains from the Chinini rock member in Tunisia and the Elras formation, which also resides in Niger. However, the fossil material found in both formations were also likely washed down from a younger rock layer, since the Chinini and Elras date to the end of the early Cretaceous, sometime before Carcharodontosaurus even appeared in the fossil record. All of the formations that Carcharodontosaurus resided in formed a massive ancient river system that once stretched across North Africa, famously known as the River of Giants, due to the high amount of large animals, mostly predators, that resided in this environment. A 2020 study by Nizar Ibrahim concluded that this was probably one of the most dangerous places to be on Earth during this time due to the preservation bias of large predators. This was especially the case for the Kem beds. While the flora of the River of Giants is not well known, with the exception of some sort of vascular plant being preserved, all of these formations do deposit freshwater ecosystems and estuarine deltas depending on the region. This shows that the environment that Carcharodontosaurus thrived in was very humid and also tropical, teeming with various plant life that is not known in the fossil record as of 2025. Out of all the large predators in northwest Africa, Carcharodontosaurus is one of the biggest, serving as the apex predator of its ecosystem. It was designed to hunt other giant dinosaurs, especially the vast array of sauropods that existed in the River of Giants, which are as of now the most commonly known herbivores. As its group and generic name suggest, they had evolved sharp, blade-like serrated teeth. While not as bone-shattering as the teeth in Tyrannosaurids, the teeth of Carcharodontosaurus, or Allosauridia as a whole, would have been perfect for easily tearing through flesh, causing shock and blood loss. This is actually similar to how some shark species kill their prey today. Thanks to the discovery of the closely related Meraxes, it's also possible that other members of Carcharodontosauridae may have had a single enlarged sickle claw on the second digit of each foot. While not retractable like those seen in dromaeosaurs, it's possible that they were used as tools for feeding or to pin down struggling prey, or possibly even kicking, like what their distant relatives, the forest-rocked terror birds, are believed to have done with their claws. When born, Carcharodontosaurs already had a wide variety of prey to choose from. They would have fed on an array of different species of lizards, snakes, amphibians, and possibly young turtles, and Notosuchian crocodiliforms like Auroripasuchus and Lavocatchamsa. They also likely attempted to catch the small robin-sized pterosaur Leptostomia. Mammals were also possibly on the menu, however there are no mammals preserved during this time. While they did have a decent amount of prey to choose from, it was still a dangerous place. Young Carcharodontosaurs had to worry about a lot of predators of many different shapes and sizes. They would have served as prey to many other theropods, including Carcharodontosaurids like the possibly dubious Ceraniops, Abelisaurids like Rugops, the enigmatic Deltadromeus, the sail-backed Spinosaurus, as well as crocodiliforms like Caprosuchus, Aegisuchus, Laganosuchus, and Anteusuchus, just to name a few. If they crossed rivers, young individuals had to not just worry about said crocodiliforms, but they would have also potentially been prey to giant-sized fish like the car-sized Mawsonia, the saw-skate Onchopristis, the giant beach ear Bawitius, a smaller relative of Zephactinus named Idachar, and even shark like the usually seagoing Cretalamna, the Hybodont Astercanthus, and also leptoclidid plesiosaurs of indeterminate origin. Younger individuals also had to stay hidden from becoming targets of pterosaurs, typically larger asdarchoids like Zericeps and Lanqua, just to name a few. However, these pterosaurs, including many others from the Chemchem, may also have become prey depending on the size and age of the Carcharodontosaurus individual. As they got older and larger in size, Carcharodontosaurus would begin to tackle larger prey. Aside from just pterosaurs, Carcharodontosaurus would hunt and compete with the aforementioned theropods, especially with larger predators like Spinosaurus. Typically, both genera would have coexisted since Spinosaurus usually feeds on fish, but fossil evidence elsewhere has proved that Spinosaurids occasionally fed on pterosaurs and other dinosaurs as well. Both predators likely fought for food, and this would have especially been the case during the dry season and other times of hardship when food was scarce. Competition aside, the most common prey item for adult Carcharodontosaurs were the large sauropods that occupied the region. Due to the preservation bias, not a lot is known about other herbivores that inhabited North Africa during this time. The Chemchem beds preserved a footprint from an ornithopod that was potentially closely related to Ouranosaurus, which by this time was already extinct. Ankylosaurs would have likely also lived with Carcharodontosaurus based on a single osteoderm found in the same region. In contrast, sauropods of various types have been preserved all throughout North Africa. If a Carcharodontosaurus was to try and take down a sauropod, it would have all depended on the size, age, and health of the individual along with the species. One of the earliest sauropods that these predators was possibly the medium-sized Rhabachisaurid Tatuinia, which was already going extinct by the time Carcharodontosaurus appeared in the fossil record. Other sauropods they would have preyed on would have been Rhabachisauris itself, one of the last remaining diplodocoids, possibly the Titanosaurus Paralotitan and Egyptosaurus, and others of indeterminate origin. Though, in the course of their hunts, these predators had to worry about their pillar-like legs, thumb spikes, and long whip-like tails. Unlike their South American counterparts, there is no record of Carcharodontosaurus being social. However, if they were indeed social, family units or hunting parties would have been enough to take down large and healthy adult sauropods. Similar to other allosaurids, there is a chance that they may have fought each other for territory and food, and as is evident with Allosaurus, there is a chance that they may have cannibalized each other as well. All in all, Carcharodontosaurus played a major role in its environment. Even in a world where predators outweigh the amount of prey, this sharp-toothed predator still managed to become one of the largest in the region, chasing and feasting on some of the largest animals to have ever walked across North Africa, and standing up against other intimidating predators that rivaled it in size. It truly was the nightmare of its time. Carcharodontosaurus has had quite a large presence in media throughout the years since its discovery, primarily in the form of video games, with its video game debut being in the 1999 PlayStation dinosaur fighting game Warpath Jurassic Park as the first unlockable combatant in the game with 3 skin variants. This would also be Carcharodontosaurus' debut into the award-winning Jurassic Park franchise, with its next spotlight being in another Jurassic game titled Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, colloquially known as JPOG. In this game, Carcharodontosaurus is a 4-star dinosaur and attraction to add into your park that can be found as rare fossils in the aforementioned Chinini Formation, now known as the Chinini Rock Group. Later, in 2005, it would make its debut in the Dinosaur King franchise in the form of not just video games, but also the anime TV series starring in the episodes Rubble Trouble, Carnival of Chaos, and the Third Cosmos Stone. In this franchise, Carcharodontosaurus has the portrayal as a fire-type attribute. 2 years later, in 2007, it would be a rewardable dinosaur within the DVD video game Jurassic Park Explorer, incorrectly depicted as having an outdated length of 14 meters or 46 feet. After this, Carcharodontosaurus Carcharodontosaurus would debut in the Fossil Fighters franchise in 2008 as the Earth-type Vivosaur Carchar. However, the design of this Vivosaur is rather Egyptian in nature, with the creature having what appears to be an eye of Horus from old Egyptian mythology. And because of this, it's not impossible to conclude that Carchar is actually the newly described animal, Tamaryraptor, rather than an actual Carcharodontosaurus, as we now know that Carcharodontosaurus did not live in Egypt. In any case, Carchar would later on return in the sequel game Fossil Fighters Champions in 2010. Later on, in 2012, Carcharodontosaurus appeared in the mobile game Jurassic Park Builder as a bronze-tier dinosaur and fighter. The following year, Carcharodontosaurus would actually be showcased as concept art in the PlayStation 3 game Wonderbook Walking with Dinosaurs, making its debut once again into another franchise as a pair of juveniles are seen searching for food and then shown being intimidated and backing away from a Spinosaurus. Along with this, in the upcoming reboot to Walking with Dinosaurs, it was announced that there will be an episode dedicated to the aforementioned Spinosaurus. Because of this, there's also a high chance that Carcharodontosaurus will be shown alongside it, as the two are commonly seen together in documentaries. 2 years later, in 2014, it would appear as a trophy dinosaur referred to as Sawtooth in the mobile game Dino Hunter Deadly Shores. Sometime after, in 2018, Carcharodontosaurus would be brought into Jurassic World Evolution as part of the Cretaceous Dinosaur DLC as of December 13th. It would also appear in the sequel game Jurassic World Evolution 2 in 2021 as part of the base game. Afterwards, Carcharodontosaurus would star in the 2015 game Ark Survival Evolved as one of the only creatures in the game that can take on a Giganotosaurus in a fight. Along with this, it is also one of the fastest large carnivores in the game. 3 of its latest video game appearances would all be in 2023, all of which surprisingly star Carcharodontosaurus back-to-back within the final months of the year. To start out, October would see it in the remake to Ark Survival Evolved, known as Ark Survival Ascended. November would see it in the mobile game Jurassic World Alive as one of the Omega-class creatures, and lastly, Carcharodontosaurus' latest video game appearance would be in the 2022 zoo-building PC game titled Prehistoric Kingdom in Update 9 of December 16th, once again as a 4-star creature to add into your park. As for documentaries, TV shows, and movies, Carcharodontosaurus' appearances are a lot more scarce by comparison. As previously mentioned, some appearances of what would have been the sharp-toothed lizard in Egypt are now considered to instead be Tamaryraptor. With that said, its documentary debut was in the 1997 stop-motion docufilm titled Beyond T-Rex. In this documentary, Carcharodontosaurus is compared to Tyrannosaurus Rex in various different aspects alongside its close cousin Giganotosaurus. Over a decade later, in 2009, Carcharodontosaurus would appear in the short docu-series Monsters Resurrected, also referred to as Megabeast. In the episode Biggest Killer Dino, a single clip of Carcharodontosaurus would be seen across various segments throughout the episode, being struck in the face and supposedly killed by a highly inaccurate depiction of a massive Spinosaurus. In the same year, it possibly appeared in the 2007 sci-fi fictional drama series Primeval in the season 3 finale, episode 3.10. However, its appearance is more of a cameo at best and completely speculative at worst, as it is only briefly seen as a background theropod at the very end of the episode. Afterwards, in 2011, Carcharodontosaurus would obtain a much more prominent appearance in the documentary series Planet Dinosaur. In the first episode, titled Lost World, a pair of Carcharodontosaurus are depicted fighting over a territorial dispute as to who gets to hunt a herd of Ouranosaurus, and later, another male is seen to have brought down one of the latter for a meal. However, it unfortunately lost its kill during a confrontation with a Spinosaurus. Along with this, Carcharodontosaurus would return in the 5th episode, New Giant, where it is seen fighting with a Sarcosuchus over a baby Paralititan. In this episode, it would go on to win the confrontation, but unfortunately, it once again loses its potential kill from the mother, and the juvenile ends up surviving. It should also be noted that neither Paralititan nor Sarcosuchus would have lived with Carcharodontosaurus in life. The next appearance of Carcharodontosaurus would be in 2012 in the 2009 children's web series I'm a Dinosaur. Alongside the aforementioned Dino Hunter Deadly Shores mobile game, 2014 would prove to be another big year for Carcharodontosaurus. On August 18th, it would be the featured animal in yet another 2009 children's show, this time taking the form of the popular Dinosaur Train as the character Chef C. Later, on November 5th, Carcharodontosaurus would star in the groundbreaking Nova documentary Bigger Than T-Rex. The first documentary to showcase the 2014 reconstruction of Spinosaurus. Its latest appearance in any TV shows, movies, or documentaries would be in December, where Disney's Pixar would star the sharp-toothed lizard in a Toy Story Christmas special titled Toy Story That Time Forgot as the anthropomorphic Battlesaur character Reptilius Maximus. Additionally, the 2003 Discovery docuseries Dinosaur Planet in the episode Alpha's Egg showcases animals referred to as Carcharodontosaurs. However, it is likely that this refers to the animals being within Carcharodontosauria rather than Carcharodontosaurus itself. However, even this is now outdated, as we now know the fossil material that these animals are based off of are actually from the large megaraptoran Erostion. Overall, Carcharodontosaurus has made many prominent appearances since its discovery, and while it certainly has had its fair share of appearances in video games and documentaries, hopefully in time this incredible dinosaur will be featured even more as the years go on. Carcharodontosaurus was one of the most impressive predators to have ever roamed the world during its time. Living in a region where the amount of predators outweighed their prey, it managed to become one of the largest animals in not only its family tree, but also one of the largest terrestrial predators this world had ever seen. However, just as with any other animal that has existed before and since Carcharodontosaurus, no species lasts forever. 94 million years ago, the last of the giant Carcharodontosaurs would experience an extinction event that would bring the age of the Carnosaurs to an end. This extinction is known as the Cenomanian-Turonian Boundary Event, an anoxic event that was caused by a large carbon cycle disturbance, which was likely the byproduct of underwater volcanic eruptions. This, along with other disturbances, eventually led to rising sea levels, mostly affecting marine life that existed during this time. Not only did this lead to the eventual extinction of older groups like pliosaurs and ichthyosaurs, but this also affected the life on land. In this case for Carcharodontosaurus and its contemporaries, the lowland habitats that they thrived in would have been flooded and gradually lost. This was detrimental to the River of Giants, as it likely destroyed the food supply for the prey that Carcharodontosaurus would have hunted. With the loss of the herbivores in this region, especially the sauropods that they had evolved to hunt, this sharp-toothed predator eventually went extinct. And while Carnosauria as a group would persist for a little while longer, eventually, with the extinction of animals like Mapusaurus and Ulugbegsaurus, this storied lineage of predatory dinosaurs would come to an end after 89 million years of rule. Though, despite the end of this ancient lineage, the absence of such large predators all over the world would make way for some of the most legendary and memorable animals to ever walk the planet. For while the age of the Carnosaurs had come to an end, the reign of the Tyrannosaurs had just begun. And while this sharp-toothed predator may be gone forever, its impact and legacy in the world of science is profound, especially within the paleontological community. Its discovery led to the description of a brand new group of theropods, one that managed to rule as the top predators for millions of years. And after having ruled over Northwest Africa for 6 million years as the apex of its day, it is safe to say that none of its contemporaries could stand shoulder to shoulder with Carcharodontosaurus, the North African nightmare. Thank you all for watching our video about the king of North Africa, Carcharodontosaurus. We hope you've enjoyed this video as much as we did in the process of creating it. Carcharodontosaurus and its kin were some of the largest and most impressive predators to have ever roamed the earth and deserve as much love as they can possibly get. This video was directed and narrated by myself, the Primal Earth, scripted by SpinoDragon145, RangoGamer, CrimsonAcro, and myself, edited by MikeMC9797, CrimsonAcro, SpinoDragon145, TheDinosaurHunter, and myself. The graphic designers for this video were Straight Up Murph for the creature design and TheDinosaurHunter for the thumbnail, models, and animations. And lastly, the research team for this video was SpinoDragon145, RangoGamer, and CrimsonAcro. As always, be sure to like, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell in order to be notified whenever a new video gets released. And with that, we will see you all next time on Epoch Now.